All right. Hello, everybody. I am Dr. John Matthew, and I'm here with Earl Coburn, and he is going to give you a little bit about himself real quick.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, whatever time you're listening. My name is Earl Coburn. I am the Assistant Director over Outreach and Case Management and Student Support.
And I guess I forgot to tell you who I am. I'm an assistant professor here at SRU University, and I also work in the counseling center as a counselor. So today we are going to be talking about getting the most out of your online semester. And this is a follow up from something we did with Outreach. So we're just kind of recording it. It will be shorter because we don't have as much questions and interaction, but still, it will be a very good resource for everybody. Um, kind of starting things off, this is our second semester online, um, and that's something that we're all kind of struggling with, and it's not really fun or that quote unquote college type of environment. Um, and kind of what we always talk about is there's still things that everyone is still learning, from students to faculty to staff, anybody that's really kind of on campus and working with each other. So really our goal today, and it's pretty simple and straightforward, but it's definitely helpful, is time management. How do we do that? Because sometimes we don't know how to. Stress management is, let's get a little bit ahead of that, so we're not by midterms just checked out. And preventing burnout, which is a huge part, because like I just said, this is still very new. Burnout is very real, and that's something that we feel definitely needs to be addressed. So, time management, and this is where we're gonna float over to Earl.
Absolutely. And when John and I presented this back in January, we started off the conversation by asking other students, well, how do they feel about their time management? What are some concerns that they had? We had one student share that their class schedule became real infrequent because of, whether it's asynchronous or synchronous, and things didn't seem like they were on track. And her mindset was just trying to get done so much and so quick because she never knew what was going to happen. She'd feel burned out. And by the time the weekend was here, she was just exhausted. And then for others, they were used to being so busy, and all of a sudden, then they weren't busy anymore. No more practices or infrequent practices or different activities that they usually took part of, they weren't doing anymore. So as a result, they didn't know what to do with that extra time and how to manage that time. So what we came up with is some different suggestions to think about as you're trying to master time management, especially now during times where things aren't so certain, aren't so normal. So one of the things that we would suggest is to consider making a schedule, not just for the day, but for the week, for the month, or even for the semester. And there's a few different ways to do so. One way is going to straight paper, taking a planner, taking planner printouts from online, getting a calendar, using a whiteboard, having sticky notes. And there's also a bunch of digital options, whether it's using your iCalendar through your iPhone or Apple devices, using Outlook, Google, different apps, so on and so forth. And just trying to stick with something as your way to track what you need to do and what you plan to get done for the day, the week, the month, or the semester. And so our suggestion to start out is take your syllabus from your semester. Even though you might be listening to it, it might be a little bit further in the semester. It's not just the beginning anymore. Still put everything down and recognize that things can change. Days can change. Heaven forbid we have a snow day, or class was supposed to be in person and now it's moved online for the day, or whatever the shift or the change can be. Just making sure that you recognize things can change and understand that things might bounce a little bit differently. So putting in those due dates are important. Then also putting in your classes, of course, is key. You might have that scheduled down, but with the way things are being offline, it's easy to forget what day you're on. So making sure you're writing down what time classes are is very important. But then also start figuring out when to get stuff done, budgeting different time. And there's some different strategies to work on with this. So if you're trying to get a paper done, budgeting out your calendar when you want to do that paper. Some people like the idea of working on the shorter, easiest task first, so that way you feel accomplished. It's the idea of getting up in the morning, making your bed, just so you can say you did something to start your day already. And because you've done one thing, it's easier to keep moving. Other people like the idea of doing the hardest task because sometimes we have something like a very big 15-page paper we don't want to do, and we're putting it off and we're putting it off. And so as a result, because we're putting it off, we don't get anything else done because we keep thinking about this paper. And that's one way to do so. Another thing to think of is if you are starting with that hardest task is breaking it down. So instead of saying, all right, I got to work on a 15-page paper, good luck, go. Say, you know what, today I'm going to work on my thesis statement. And now I'm going to work on my introduction. And now I'm going to flesh out one of my big points. And now I'm going to flesh out the second big point. Breaking it down in that manner can help. So that way the task doesn't seem so big and so scary. The other piece is thinking about scheduling breaks. I know it kind of sounds silly to write in your calendar, take a break, but it's easy to forget to go read, just to decompress or go on YouTube for a little bit just to relax or go eat. Sometimes I know some students get so focused they don't remember to eat lunch or dinner, and all of a sudden it's 9 o'clock and you're starving. Another thing to think about too, in addition to that time management, is figuring out where you're working because so many of us, including myself, you can see I'm currently in my dining room right now. This is not an office. This is not my office in Slipper Rock. This is my dining room. But trying to figure out what space works for you to get things done. It's trying to balance the people that you're living with too. So for me, I have a wife and I have a daughter who is about two. And as you can imagine, 2-year-old doesn't really stay quiet very long. And so trying to figure out like what's a good spot for me in my calendar. So I'm watching my daughter and then working to get things done. Those types of things are things I got to think about. And I'm sure all of you listening and watching have those same types of questions, same types of things that you have to figure out. Even where you're sitting or what you're doing helps. For some, the bedroom is the best place to work. And by being in the bedroom, you get your own space, it's private, it's quiet, but you might be laying on your bed. And if you're laying on your bed, that's what you do when you sleep. And if you're laying on your bed when you're doing homework, you might get real sleepy, you might get real motivated. So, if that's the case and that's where you have to work, you don't have a desk in your room, but you're on your bed trying to sit upright, making sure the bed is made before you get things done. Those are things that can help you if that is your workspace, but ultimately trying to figure out what location makes the best sense for you and at what times, because the times might differ. So, for example, if you're in your parents' house, you're in your dining room, 1 o'clock during the day works out pretty good. Maybe no one's around, but 5 o'clock during the day may be rough because it's about dinner time. Another thing to think about is the way you dress. I know it kind of sounds silly, but if you're dressing like you're going to work or you're going to class, including your old morning routine, that may be very, very helpful. So for me, when I get up in the morning, I'm showering. I'm eating breakfast before I work. Making sure I'm in at least jeans and a nicer shirt. Maybe not necessarily dress clothes I used to be wearing in the office, but at least I'm not in my sweats or not in pajama pants, so I know it's time for me to work. Another thing to consider is to set boundaries. For some, it's the idea of maybe you stop working by 10 p.m. so that way you can unwind. Or maybe you know that the TV is a big distraction, your phone's a big distraction, so making sure those are away from you while you're trying to get work done will be vital. And that's something to think about for yourself. So even right now, if you want to take out a piece of paper as we're going through these things, start writing down some ideas of what works for you, whether it is the best idea to try for your schedule, whether it is a space, or how to make sure you're setting boundaries for yourself and minimizing other distractions. Let's face it, social media can be a distraction. Video games can be a distraction. Anything can be a distraction if you allow it to be. But think about how you fight those distractions. Think about the ways you can counteract it beforehand, so that way you're not in the moment. It's really easy to get a notification on your phone, and you're just laser focused on that instead of what you need to be doing. So now I'm going to turn it back over to John as he's going to go a little more in detail about what stress management looks like and how to balance this during where we're at currently in our situation in lives.
Yes, absolutely. And stress management always ties into our time management. So a lot of these things will be things that, when we're talking about scheduling and planning, is that they can be thrown into, the things that we're doing. So something we kind of started with, and we did do this. We did this originally a couple weeks ago. When we were closer to the start of the semester, which it's still pretty fresh, I'd say. And kind of the statement that we came up with is, although we're not stressed right now, like at the start of the semester, the first week or 2 weeks, is that the way that we can practice. So when it comes time to midterms, or when your classes kind of amp up, you have all these assignments or projects or tests, whatever it may be, now we can start using those stress management skills, right? So the time management, you could probably you may be able to get down and figure out your time, but still, even if you have very good time management, that doesn't mean you're not going to get stressed out, you know? And that's one of the big things I always kind of say. It's like, yeah, you can have great time management, but there's still, classes can be challenging, balancing friendships, relationships, families with school or sports or whatever it may be. Um, so that's really where we're kind of hitting this on. Um, so the biggest thing, one of the biggest things I like to say is, you know what, if you're watching this or listening to this, you're not alone. We're all in this together. This is a very first for every single one of us. Um, I have no prior pandemic um, type of learning. This is the first. Same with Earl. We've never done this, and faculty members, staff, coaches, students. This is the first. So this is something that we're all learning. We're all figuring out still. So, when we're talking about, stress management, it's again, it ties really well in with that time management. And then, the big thing that I like to say is, set time aside for you, right? You might think, oh, well, I do because I do my homework by myself, or I study by myself, or writing a paper by myself. Okay, yeah, sure, I get that. But no, when we say for you, this is relaxing and fun, not school or a job, right? These are things that you do um, to relax. It's pleasing to you. It kind of can take you out of the world and not have to think about school or anything like that. That could be anything from watching a movie, reading a book to you fill in the blank. It's the things that you like. And that might be time where, like Earl mentioned, writing down like, eat lunch at this time, or, scheduling and breaks in your schedule. And those are other things, is scheduling time aside for you. Being able to talk about, or not talk about, but being able to do some of those things that bring you joy. Because then you get bogged down, and bogged down by everything that's going on, right? So take that time, set that side aside for yourself, and be able to, find a place for that. Asking for help, right? And that's one of the biggest things where we don't like to do, especially when we're talking about, stress management or time management, right? A lot of times, especially as a college student or even as an adult, I can manage my stress. It's fine, right? I'm not stressed out, and in reality, we really are, but we're trying to tell ourselves that we're not. And so asking for help is not something that, if you're, and we're not saying, okay, you have to come to the student set or to the student support or to the counseling center to talk about these things. You might be able to reach out to a friend, a buddy, a family member, a professor, somebody, say, hey, you know what? What are some things you do to de-stress yourself, right? And you could have a very casual conversation with somebody about these things. Also, moving past that, if you feel that you are overstressed, that you have this abundance, and it's distressing and causing you, anxiety or depression, that might be a time where you want to seek out student support and say, hey, this is what's going on. And usually what happens is they throw you right down to me. And because, we talk a lot about stress, how do we manage that? Kind of what feelings are you getting from that? So, asking for help is something that is a very powerful thing. And it's something that, yes, it's not the easiest thing to do, but, it shows that, as an adult, as a college student, hey, I'm not that good at this. Help me out on some of these things. Um, so I always like to say, find your own mantra, right? And I always look at it as like this little chant, or this little, you know, um, pump up song you have for yourself, or even just something you say in your head, to kind of to get you through, more challenging times. And that can be anything under the sun, like you can do this, it can be, hey, the light at the end of the tunnel is there. I'm getting close. All these little things you say to kind of just give yourself just a little extra, hey, it's going. And this is why I keep on going for this goal, and if, for your undergraduate degree, or if you're a graduate student, or just for, a simple homework assignment, kind of having these little mantras and sayings, they can sound silly. And it's one thing I love about them the most, is because you can really obtain them to yourself. And then the last thing I always point out is the adaptability, and it's like I always give my example. I am very much a creature of habit. So when it comes time to doing things online and staying home and not going to the office, it can just throw my whole day off, and I feel like I'm in a different world. um, but as humans, right, and a lot of it is really human nature, is that a lot of things we do in life, we have to adapt because there's going to be changes. I always kind of give a simple example of that is, you're driving to school and work, and you've been driving the same way every single day for the longest, for as long as you can remember. But then that road closes and there's a different road that opens up. Yeah. So if you can't adapt to taking that road, you're never going to get anywhere. You're just going to say, well, I guess I'm just going to go back home because this road's gone now. I can't take that road because I've never done it before. And so these are kind of those times where you can, in a lot of ways, experiment and see what works best for us. Because again, what works well for me um, probably won't work well for Earl and vice versa, and same with everybody else out there. And so being adaptable to like, okay, I know that classes are online. I don't like that. It's challenging for me. Okay, I get that. But also with this time, I got to give a little bit of leeway to myself and to the other people that are in this class or teaching this class, and just being able to kind of adapt and make sure that you're okay with this. And that's one of the things that can be that challenge is, how do we kind of change some of the things in our lives, not these huge parts, but change some things so we can be the ultimate student and just person that we want to be. And so next we're going to move it towards preventing burnout and zoomed out, and Earl's going to take it over here.
Well, let's face it, burnout is real. Burnout is real. I've experienced it. I'm very confident I'd wager John has experienced it before. And it's likely that you've probably experienced this. And so burnout is the state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. It occurs when you are overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. So I recognize I'm reading that word from word. And the reason why I did that is I want to make sure it sinks in. Sometimes we don't realize we're being in the middle of burnout. We don't realize we're getting close to being burned out because we're so focused on going. We're so focused on forward movement and trying to get further that we may not realize until it's too late. And we don't want to see that happen to you. We don't want the burnout to be so bad that it impedes you to be successful at something, rock, or it impedes you to be able to talk to family and friends. We don't want it to really throw you off course and off track of what your goals and your accomplishments are looking to be. And so it's easy to compare other people. It's easy to look at a colleague, a sibling, or anybody and see, well, they're doing it. And I'm not doing as well as I'd like to hope. But, everyone has their own different things going on in life. You might be experiencing, stress because you feel like you're not doing as well in class as somebody else, but you're also helping family with watching your younger brothers or sisters or trying to help them with their classes, let alone even trying to work during this pandemic. Or, there might be so many other things that are factoring in you may not realize compared to somebody else. So really only you know what you can do mentally and physically. And it goes back to trying to manage with time management, trying to find that balance. And that's why we're really trying to harp on those past two slides, because if you're able to get a good grasp on time management and you're really able to have a really big hold on what John was talking about with stress management, that'll help. That'll help avoid burnout. And sometimes we don't recognize where we are. So it's important to take note of your mental state at times. And think about how would you do this? Because again, it's different for everybody else. But one thing to think about, and something I think about, is to think about what happens when you feel good, when things go right, what you want to achieve, and then working to fight for those. When you're happy and how you're feeling, trying to see what you can do to get back to that feeling. Just trying to see like brings you joy. Maybe something simple like listening to an awesome song or catching up with an old friend or talking to family or whatever the case is, just doing those things to get you to that state of feeling good and getting recharged is vital. And it goes back to what I was talking about a couple slides ago about taking breaks, because breaks are key. Whether you're scheduling that in, you're timing them out, whatever the strategy. And so one strategy I can share with you is the Pomodoro technique. And so this actually is Italian for the word tomato. So the tomato technique, that's an easy way to remember it. And so this stems back from an Italian researcher who would set a timer for 30 minutes on his tomato timer, hence the name Pomodoro technique. And he'd set this timer for 30 minutes and he'd work for 30 minutes. And when that timer went off, he'd set it for 5 minutes, go take a quick break, stretch out, use the bathroom, get some water, get a snack, whatever the case is. And once that 5 minute timer rang, he set it for 30, sat back down and worked for 30 minutes. And you do the cycle, 30 minutes on, 5 off, 30 minutes on, 5 off for 4 rotations. And after that 4th cycle, you take a half-hour break and then jump back in. And this could be something that would work for you, or this could be something that would stress you out. But it's important to find some type of way to make sure you're taking breaks and making it your own. And so it's vital to do so. So I'm going to go ahead and have John move over to the next slide here. Let's talk a little bit about what our offices do and some resources. So John, if you want to speak a little bit about the counseling center, then I'll chime in about student support.
Absolutely, and this is kind of our our spot where we're gonna open up our screens to be able to show you kind of, if it comes down to, make an appointment or getting more information about us, and how do we do that. So we did make sure that we prearranged it so we knew where things were. So um, this would be the counseling center's main place. And basically, to get that, you go to the search bar and you type in student counseling center, or the first thing that comes up. Um, so really what you're looking at here is it gives you all kind of the information about, really, what we do, how it is, for students and what they seek, and kind of what these stuff that, different things that we work with students, where we're at, of course, and I know we're online, gives us these common reasons for college students of, what brings them into counseling. Our hours, of course, and the other things, we can go, okay, we can kind of get the services. In this kind of, we do individual couples relationships. We have group counseling. Right now, we have the anxiety and depression group. We have the grief and loss. We have the LGBTQIA plus support group, and that's in partnership with the Pride Center, which is great. We also have a student athlete support group, that's one that I actually run. And so, if there's any time where you want more information, say our groups, um, just call our number, right? And the same thing if individual relationship counseling, you're thinking about this, just give us a call or drop us an email, and we'll answer. And so the other thing, if you're apprehensive to, coming to counseling, or you're nervous, or you're not sure, is you can meet all of us that are in the counseling center. So, for example, if you go to me, you can click on Meet John, and it brings you to YouTube. Um, and it gives us a nice little, I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. Only a minute long, but still. And then on here also, with our student, SRU student, with different things like that, um, being able to show us everything that's kind of going on YouTube and things like that. We also have a counseling center's resource thing. So we have TAL that's there because assisted online. There's some other things where it's, suicide outreach and warning signs. These are some things that, you can look at for yourself, or for something that you're working with a friend. There's also things where it's coming to, if you need to, look at our newsletter, which we have newsletters that come out weekly, or every 2 weeks, I should say. And then, we have our own little facts page where, these are some myths and some things, and it says what qualifies you in that. So pretty basic, straight to the point. And now I'm going to turn it over to um, Earl, and he's going to kind of give you the rundown of what's going on, with the Student Support Center. And I just got to make
Absolutely.
sure that Earl can share his screen, because if he can't, that is
Might make it a little tricky.
no go. And he can. Well, at
All
least we'll
right.
see.
So yep, I'm actually sharing my screen now. So what I want to show you first is the student support website, and I did make it a little bit bigger, just in case there's any issues seeing it on the screen. But with the student support website, you can just Google SRU Student Support. You can search for us in the search bar on sru.edu. But over here, you can see our staff. You can get more information about different things that we do. And you can also click on this care referral button to put in a care referral. What's nice about a care referral is if you're experiencing anything that's getting in the way of your social, emotional, or personal wellness, you're feeling that someone else is off. You can write a care referral for yourself, or you can write a care referral for someone that you know. What'll happen is that care referral will come to the student support departments, and we'll be able to have somebody meet with you. So what the care referral looks like, so if you go click on the care referral link, the public care referral option pops up. and you can scroll down and choose what fits best. So typically, a lot of times, this would be just student support. And what's nice is if you hover over the question mark, it'll actually tell you what each option is. So if you click on student support, that you're creating a character and you want to meet someone student support, it asks for information, name, email, phone number, and these are really important just so we know how to get a hold of you and contact you and follow up, whether it's something about you, or if you put in care referral for someone else. If you put in your name, your email, and your phone number, we're able to reach out to you with any additional questions that can help us help your friend or student that you're concerned about. And so finally, you put in the name of the student, whether it's you or someone else, and then to be as descriptive as possible about what's going on, what's happening, so that way you can, again, best help the student, whether it's you or someone else. So that takes piece on what the student support website is, as well as care referral piece and how to write a referral. One tool that we've recently had about a year and a half ago, we started implementing this is our SRU Concern Center. And what's nice about the SRU Concern Center is it's a good one-stop shop to reach out about different things that you might be thinking about or worried about. So let's say if you wanted to type in and you're really concerned about time management, since that's something we talked about. So if you hit search, here's all the different concerns that pop up, whether it's stress, falling behind, missing home, returning from medical leave, leaving university, managing money. So if we say overscheduled, it'll talk a little bit about what this concern is, and then give you the primary resource, which in this case would be our student success coaches. And it gives you a little bit of information about where the student success coaches are located, their phone number, their website, their email address, a little bit about this resource. As well as on the bottom, you can see different related resources. So the next one will be the Student Counseling Center. And again, more information about the counseling center, where they're located, how to call them, so on and so forth. And so in addition to having these pieces here that you can type in something and search, you can actually search by category, and you can see the different categories that we have. You can actually look at all concerns that we have alphabetically, or just look at all the different resources that we have connected to Concern Center. And finally, if you wanted to write a care referral, you can also do this right here. If you come across something, you type something in, there is nothing that pops up, let us know. We are always looking to build and grow this resource. So you can actually go right to email us and you'll be able to put in to say, hey, I looked up something about this concern and I couldn't find anything. And we'll be able to reach back out to you and not only help direct you to the resources that you need, but then we'll build this back in the Concern Center to make sure that other students looking for this similar concern can find it. Another resource I'd like to share are the student success coaches. I know I mentioned them when I searched for time management, but they do a lot helping with students with time management, balancing, a lot to help with the academic side. So if the counseling center and student support are working with personal, social, emotional wellness, then student success coaches are more focused on the academic side. How do you talk to professors? How do you balance your schedule during COVID? Those types of pieces. So what's nice about their website, and you can do the same thing, just look them up through the SRU websites and type in student success coaches. You can book an appointment with them and you can actually take advantage of one of their online handouts. You can download these and take a look at it if you see fit. Finally, Student Support does run a program called Boost. It is a program where we have student workers who do social, emotional, and personal wellness programming. They'll come to first seminars, they'll go to classes or other student groups to talk about different topics, whether it's lessons to learn during you staying at home, or whether it's balancing personal friendships or working on mindfulness. The peers will come and do these types of programs. We also run a Twitter, so we're at SRU Boost on Twitter, and we're also at SRU Boost on Instagram. So give us a follow, take a look, and reach out to us. So now I'll stop sharing my screen and turn it back over to John for one last sweep of resources.
Absolutely. Forgot to unmute myself. So the last piece that we have here is, and again, Earl gave you a nice rundown, and again, it, it was kind of the quick way of doing things, but also, if there are questions about either what I've shared or what Earl has shared, and more about how to do that, um, please reach out. That's something that, we would be gladly to share to students, or if a faculty member is watching this, if you have any questions, we're here to make sure that students and faculty alike able to know all the resources that we provide. So some additional resources, and a lot of these, I know I can't give 100% of exactly every single little thing that they do, but we have a general idea. So whenever something's happening, the student health center is always one of those go-to places because they're open 24/7. And if there's an emergency or if someone's having an anxiety attack and has never had one before and don't know what to do, obviously the counseling centers closed, student support, they're not going to get that immediately, but student health center, you can walk over there. So you can always call and they'll say, come on in, and they can help you out right there at that very moment. So it's a very good resource. They're very wonderful over there. And that's always a great place to start, you know, if something's happening, and especially if it's a medical thing. The Center for Community Resources, and so this is for Butler. It's also a 24/7 crisis line, right? So if there's something going on and you couldn't go to, say, the student health center or talk to somebody there, this is another line where you can call, and wherever you're at, you can be able to talk to somebody. If something's happening, if you just need some thoughts on something, whatever it may be, right? And then, the other one is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And this is again, a national um, calling service, and it's 24/7 again. And we have the 800-273-TALK. And, this is someone where, again, it could be for yourself or it could be for a friend or something. But, that can be a really great tool to have, a great resource to kind of have. So obviously, our on-campus police, if there is something that's going on that needs um, attention ASAP, of course, call the on-campus police. But again, if it's something that is a dire emergency, 911, call 911. If it is, if you have no idea and it's something that's scary, or if it's involving something where someone's injured, you need to call 911. Again, the Student Health Center or the Community for Service Resources or the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, they're not going to be able to help you with immediate attention to somebody that might be medically hurt or yourself. So, you know, we have these options out here to help with, again, just a little bit of extra stuff.
And just something real quick to add, John. One of the things I didn't realize until I started working with Slippery Rock is if there's an actual emergency that you're thinking you're on campus and you need to call 911, actually call the university police first. And that kind of sounds counterintuitive, but if you call the university police first, they'll be able to get someone from emergency services in Butler County, where Slippery Rock's located, to be able to help faster than if you call 911. Because believe it or not, if you call 911, their first call is actually to the university police to see what's going on. Did you hear anything about it? Is this a real case? So just as an addendum, if there's something going on campus that's an emergency, call the university police first. And then if you're off campus, 911 is your best bet.
Thank you for sharing that, Earl. That is, I did not know that, but now I do. Great. Um, and that is all we have. And again, we would like to thank everybody again for watching. Whatever you do, watch this. And again, if there's any questions, comments, or concerns, like always, you can reach out to myself, you can reach out to Earl. I'll be glad to answer any type of questions. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a wonderful day or evening or morning or whatever it may be. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everybody.